Now, logistics have long been a struggle for FreshDirect. Seems they continue to be. I know as a potential customer, I've tried to get slots for delivery, not been able to on a FreshDirect, or had orders kind of messed up. But then at the same time, there are a lot of people trying these services from lots of different providers. What do you think is going to determine who comes out stronger on this end? And you think consumer behavior has permanently changed?
Yeah, so I do think that service matters the most. And yes, a lot of people are struggling. I speak to a lot of grocery chains today who are also trying to amp up their service, and all of them are struggling to handle the demand with lots of out of stocks and service issues and orders incomplete. And I do believe over time that will wear on customers. And I think the winners are those who are really going to get ahead of this curve and make sure they're investing in the infrastructure to keep up with the demand, but do the demand exceptionally well. And that really is important to customers in the long run.
And what about labor? I know that there had been some moves among FreshDirect's workforce to unionize at various points. Clearly, management did not want that to happen. You're hearing more and more from the realm of grocery, whether it's Amazon workers or others, as they're essential during this crisis, saying, hey, we need to be heard more. We had a Target employee on just last week. What's the smart move for management now in dealing with employees to make sure the employees are taken care of, and maybe that labor costs are also kept under control?
Yeah, it's a great point. It's actually a really balancing act at the moment. As you can imagine, the frontline workers are the ones who are exposing themselves from a health risk perspective, as well as with all of the demand. Everyone has to work in slightly closer quarters, and that does present a challenge for those who are dealing with that. And so there are a lot of complaints. You see it across almost all businesses in this online space, that people are raising their voices around this concern. But at the same time, customers are really unrelenting in their expectations that people will serve them. So the right companies are really going to focus on easing the employees, and it's better to make sure your employees are happy than taking every last piece of business from the customers, because they're the ones who are going to drive your business going forward. So I'd be very supportive of the employees.
Yeah, Jason, the other key piece of this seems to be the inventory piece, especially as we get reports of farmers tilling over their crops and having to dump dairy in the fields, and we're seeing meat processors close down their facilities and halt production temporarily. Starting to see that show up in food prices as well already. How hard is it for grocers, and particularly online grocers that are already juggling with some of these infrastructure needs and huge tidal waves of demand, to be able to get the supply chain moving in a consistent and normalized manner right now?
Yeah, it can be a real challenge. In fact, I think what I hear from a lot of people, and both in the manufacturing side and the retail, is that they're starting to cut back on some of the broad selection of items that they offer. A lot of manufacturers are putting their production lines against the more popular items. They can keep up with that demand at the sacrifice of SKU proliferation. So it is very sporadic, and I think a lot of people are moving towards a place of keep in stock what you can, offer less choice, so what you do offer you can keep on shelf, because that is a very big concern, particularly online, where out of stocks result in half orders, and that's a big challenge for customers. So that focus and lack of space is really where they need to head.
Hey, Jason, if we all agree that grocery is going to take a share from food service, and that's not going to change for a while, do you foresee fresh, like brand new entrants into the space, using new capital and sort of adding to competition, or is it mostly going to be players who already have a toe in expanding their business?
That also is an interesting question. I've been called several times by players who had a business and they weren't sure where to go with it, but are quite revived to put more capital behind it. I'm actually seeing more deals in online grocery and revival than I've ever seen before. So there absolutely is a keened up interest in it, because as we know, a lot of the incumbents tend to be a bit slower, and the VC community can act faster. So I do think, now who knows where it'll go, but even companies like meal kits are seeing a spike in their volume, which is a renewed perspective of leading back towards grocery and away from restaurant as a way to serve the market. So I do think there'll be some interesting things coming out of this for sure.
Jason, quickly, do you think there's a renewed possibility for premium grocery again? Because it used to be, I think it was Amazon, others, were charging hundreds of dollars for a subscription to grocery. I used to look at that and think, no way I'm paying that. I'm just going to go to the store. Now, yeah, I'd probably pay it. But might it look bad given the context?
Yeah, I'd be quite cautious. I mean, all this eventually will revert back that customers are willing to only pay a certain price for convenience. So I don't think that will happen long term. But I do think as companies invest more in their infrastructure and with the increase in demand, they can leverage that to offer the service at a better price over time. So I don't think you'll see that kind of gouging in price, and you will see it spike down further in terms of keeping prices relatively in check, because it's too competitive of an industry to charge customers too much. I just don't see that happening.